Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Dolores Tarver. I'm a licensed psychologist here in Columbus, Georgia, and it is time for the TT Time with Dr. Tarver. It's a wellness-based podcast. It is not intended to be a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health provider. Welcome to this fourth week of October. We have been discussing so much in October: domestic or intimate partner violence, breast cancer, lady rules last week, which can affect our growth and development as women. And this week, I wanted to highlight the stigma associated with mental illness and the negative impact of dismissing, shaming, or blaming behaviors, otherwise known as mocking. In the words of the phenomenal actor and advocate Billy Porter, who played the role of Pray Tell in Pose, this episode is aptly titled Kindness. Kindness Costs You Nothing. So, I want to give you a little bit of background if you have been following my podcast or just know anything about me in general. You know, I grew up in the small town of Grenada, Mississippi. Now, there are pros and cons to growing up in a town where practically everyone knows everyone else. But needless to say, word does travel fast. So, I have to tell you, I was absolutely appalled to learn that a man posted video footage of a woman who was experiencing a mental health episode. Not only did he post this video footage, but even more troubling were all the people who laughed, who made comments that accused her of things. They don't know anything about this woman, know nothing about her history, said that she should be placed in the justice system. And when I tell you dehumanizing, imagine your nana who had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease and had wandered away from the house one night, and she's out there in her nightgown, scared, confused, alone, but also she may have been having some difficulty with paranoia. She may have been having some medical issues. She could have been experiencing some confusion, experiencing even maybe some dissociation, depending on where she fell in the course of her illness. And someone happened upon her, and she had removed her nightgown and was standing there with what the good Lord gave her, talking to someone, maybe incoherently, saying things that didn't make a lot of sense, engaging in behavior that seemed odd, things that she would be mortified for anyone to see, and things that would mortify you as your family members for anyone to post. And someone took Ponana's video and posted it on social media, and people started making comments about your nana, not knowing anything about her history, and more importantly, not even saying to this person who posted this video, you need to remove this video. This is a shame that you would degrade a woman in this way, and report that video to the social media platform and have them take it down. Well, that, my friends, is how I feel about this situation. The video made it back to a family member, several family members, one of this woman's children, her daughter, as a matter of fact, got on the post and asked the person who put the post up to take it down. She shared information about that her mother had a significant trauma history. And as we know, trauma history often is associated with some type of addiction. And so, this woman, with everything that she has been through in her life, which is enough, I might add, did not deserve to be posted in this way. And the daughter simply asked. She was not rude, she was not mean, she was not ugly. In fact, she was almost pleading for this man to take it down. But the only thing that happened was further degradation of the woman in the video. Now, in response to this just very insensitive and mocking video, one of Grenada natives, one of the finest, Dr. Shaquita Starks, and she is a board certified psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. She penned an open letter to the paper. She gave them 2 weeks, no response from them. The letter was not posted um, or published. And so she took to social media and tagged the people who made comments to the post and the person who made the original post. And she did an outstanding job of just talking about humanity and appealing to one's good values and sensibilities. Also provided information about mental illness, addiction, and ways to actually help that are healthy. And to that, Dr. Starks, I say thank you. As an advocate for mental health and as a woman of God, I appreciate you finding the courage to take the time, a very well constructed letter to address it. So, this episode is in honor of her and anyone else who sees the humanity in people who are experiencing mental health episodes. So, let me talk about mocking. That's my long-winded introduction to address mocking behaviors. And I feel like mocking, though it's not new, definitely has gained more momentum and attention because of social media. And I want us to be clear about what mocking is. It is verbal or non-verbal abuse. It's an intent to ridicule, belittle, make fun of, disparage, um, dismiss someone or something. We've seen a lot of it, unfortunately, during this political season. Some would say that it's a parody of behaviors. However, as you all well know, I say this all the time. Joke is only funny if it's funny to the people that it's about as well. Now, we have seen growing up on the playground, for those of you, whether you grew up in a small town or didn't, kids teasing each other, picking with each other. We have seen, as adults, even the eye rolls, the heated debates that happen, a meme that's created that can be very disparaging depending on the type of meme and what it is highlighting. And I think it's important for us to really understand where this behavior comes from. I distinctly remember growing up in my hometown, and there was my mother was a special education aide, and so even before I got in mental health, I was already the foundation was being laid, and seeing how the students in her class and in the class, which different schools called them different things, but these would be where our neurodivergent children are, our children who may have some cognitive disabilities, were some learning disabilities, different classes. So my mom had the severe and profound. At that time, we called mental retardation, and then there was mild. And so one of the young people in what we call cognitive disabilities now, in the mild cognitive disabilities class, he was a delightful spirit, but he would zip around walking on his tiptoes and very quickly. And people would mock him. They would walk like him. They would go behind him and walk like him, or walk beside him and walk like him. And he probably was somewhere on the autism spectrum. And he, wouldn't engage too much. He would just keep on going about his business. But that is a clear example to me, one of the clearest examples early on. I was in high school then of seeing mocking behavior. And so as we kind of understand where this comes from, one source of that is because we see other people doing it. Now, people will say, oh, you might have learned that from another child, but I will tell you that often children are learning this from other adults. And so we are seeing other adults engage in mockery behavior. We internalize it, and then we go out and engage in the same behavior, not even fully understanding what it is that we're doing. But, it gets the laughs, right? We think this is an appropriate way for us to engage. I also recognize that whenever there is any kind of influential figure in a child's life, and that could be an older sibling, that could be a uncle, that could be an aunt, And we see them mocking. Now, some of you all grew up in your family. That was one of the ways we talk about culturally, the jokes that we have in families. And I talk a lot about how those jokes can be very hurtful because often at the center of them is something that's very sensitive to the person being mocked. It might be a nickname. It might be something you did at some point, maybe something you cooked, burned, or whatever it may be. And people just will not let it go. But because you saw people who you idealized in some capacity, who are influential in your family in some capacity, doing it. We see mothers doing it to their daughters, aunts doing it to the nieces, fathers doing it to the sons, uncles doing it. And we say, oh, this builds character. But honestly, what it does is it just perpetuates mockery throughout the generations. And people will say, well, folks are too sensitive. And I will tell you that every behavior serves a purpose. And so it is not that people are being sensitive. It is that we, in fact, and when we're mocking, are being insensitive, but we don't want to stop engaging in the mocking behavior because we gain something from it. Now, sometimes what ends up happening is cognitive dissonance. You're going to get a little psychology lesson today. So, what happens when our actions or beliefs don't align with how we see ourselves? It makes us really uncomfortable. So, what we do is we try to resolve that discomfort by putting ourselves in a position where we don't have to see our shortcomings. We don't have to see these areas where we're not as developed, where we're insecure. And so we often do that at the expense of other people. And this is how we can say that we are believers in a higher power and still engage in behaviors that are hurtful and demeaning to other people because we'll be able to justify them by saying like, oh no, no, well this is an exception and this is no, we're calling them to account because that's what the people were doing on this post. Oh, addiction at its finest, and this is a disgrace to our town, and this is why would people want to come in and see our town? Why would new investors want to come in? Why would people want to come through and visit if this is going to be what they see? Now, mind you, people saw it because you posted it. However, your cognitive dissonance will say, well, no, this is this person's fault for engaging in this behavior that I had to record it in the first place. I'm doing my civil duty to bring up this issue. And what I'm also recognizing with people is that it depends on how you grew up in your early relationships and how you attached. So I've talked about attachment theory a little bit in previous episodes as well. But what we know is that people that insecurely attach, right? So there is not that consistency. There may be criticism in their environment. There may have been instability in their environment. Those folks tend to use more mockery. And it comes from them trying to protect themselves. It's a defense mechanism, if you will, to create some emotional distance or maintain it so that people don't end up being in positions to hurt them, i.e., the bully on the bus. You all remember the bully on the bus. And so, what would people do? They would align with that bully on the bus because they didn't want to be talked about. They didn't want to be made fun of. They didn't want to feel bad and ashamed and embarrassed. So, what they would do is they would align with this bully and then they would pick on someone else. I've engaged in it myself. All of us may have at some point in our lives. I thank God for growth. But absolutely, like you join in, and even if you're not actively saying anything, you're laughing or you're not speaking up for the person. And so, absolutely, guilty by omission. I did not do anything. I withheld the opportunity to advocate and speak up for someone. So, yes, I would absolutely consider that bullying behavior as well. And then what I've recognized too is that we like to have power. And because we like to have power, we create these hierarchies. And these hierarchies allow there to be groups, and these groups kind of to be held together by whatever it is that we've aligned around. It might be ethnicity, it might be gender, it might be a sport, it might be our cognitive abilities, it might be that we like art, whatever it is. That thing that holds the group together, when we have these power dynamics in the group, we want to keep it. We want to keep that group together. That person who is in power at the top of that group is able to feel better about themselves and who they are because of this group membership. but also because we fear people rejecting and abandoning us, right? We want to stay a part of this group. And so we create these group norms, if you will, and these bonds that just really cause us to be the same. You'll start seeing people dress alike, start seeing people talk alike. And it's hard to tell them apart because we don't want to be different. We don't want any attention drawn to us. We want to just kind of have this group. There's safety in this group, right? Which is why a lot of times people will stay in a group even if people are mean to them because they want to have some kind of system that they're a part of. We want to belong. We want to be connected, right? And so, what I think what's important for us to really recognize is that when we are insecure and our self-esteem is low, we feel inadequate. And so what happens when we feel inadequate is that we'll put other people down because it can boost our own ego, right? Um, so I always tell people like there's plenty of room for everybody to be great. However, there are people that feel like if you're great, they can't be great, right? And so what we like to do, particularly in this age of social media, is tear folks down. Keyboard gangsters. We get on people's posts and we say negative things about them because we want people to like our comment, to laugh at our comment, right? Because we don't feel good about ourselves. And so some would say we'll go for the low hanging fruit, the easy people who have vulnerabilities, if you will, to be able to attack because we think other people will align better than that. We better with us if we go after someone who they may not want to connect with, right? Because that's the other dynamic is I want to remove myself from that. Like I too might deal with mental illness, but I may feel like, oh, but it's not that. Right. And I may not even consider it mental illness. I may deal with depression seasonally or situationally or have some social anxiety, but I'm not on that level. And so that puts some distance between me and this person. Again, because I don't feel good about me. Because I will tell you that when you feel good about yourself, you don't ever have to tear anybody else down to feel good about you. I will also say that we are afraid to stand up for other people because we feel like that makes us a target. Oh, that's not my business. I don't get involved in that. That's other dynamics. I'm sure that there are plenty of people who didn't like, love, or comment on that post, but they just passed it by and they didn't make a statement about it. They didn't speak up about it because unfortunately we're in this culture now of when we speak up we feel like other people may attack us or they'll draw attention to us. I don't want to get involved in that. I don't want to rock the boat. Like those people that always try to stay in the middle, like they never really have an opinion about anything. It's like, oh yeah, they're cool with everybody, but then they're not true to themselves because there's no way you can be cool with everything that's going on. There has to be something that upsets you or doesn't sit well with your value system. And so that lets me know that that person isn't actually true to who they are and they're putting on a mask, right? And so this is one of the other dynamics of why this mocking tends to occur is because we put that mask on, and so then we don't want really people to see us. We don't want people to chip away because then they'll say, well, why are you speaking up? You got some issues, like what, who are you, know these people? And so then it becomes about them, and because they don't want to have to deal with that, then they'd rather not say anything about it at all. um, I definitely will say that frequently when I'm in spaces of seeing people engage in these type of behaviors, particularly people that will not acknowledge that what they did was inappropriate. And at the very least, even if you don't even say anything publicly, like you take that down, I think that there ends up being that power dynamic, right? Like you're not going to show me that I'm wrong, so now I got to assert myself. I got to dig in even harder. And so we puff out your chest and stand firm. What do they say? 10 toes down on it. And so often when the seasoned saints will say, "Hit dogs holler." Often when people are bringing things to attention, because as it turns out, some of the people that made the post or commented on the post are in positions where they're in healthcare. in the professional spaces where behavior like this would not be tolerated at your place of work. But so I'm going to stand 10 toes down and separate it and say no, that this is a legal issue, this is a criminal issue, this is public disorderliness, right? So I can remove myself from having to actually address the inhumanity of what I did and people calling me out. So, how I want to end this is I want to talk about two things. One, I want to talk about how being mocked and mocking affects us, and then I want to talk about strategies to decrease mocking behavior. So I probably don't even need to tell you. You already couldn't guess how one would feel when they are mocked. How this family felt when they saw this post. How you would feel if Nana was violated in this way. It erodes your trust in people. And it is difficult, friends, when trust has been violated, when trust has been attacked, to get that trust back. It affects our ability to be able to have relationships with other people because, like, now I got concerns about how you're going to use information. You're going to take it and you're going to use it against me. You're going to try to have a platform where it makes you look good, and then you don't care about who might be affected as a result of that. It really erodes communication, and to look at this thread and see these posts, like, you can just see how the communication is coming apart. Like, the people that align with this joked 10 toes down in it, and the other people that were like, this is not appropriate. Imagine if this was your family member. This is not the way to address this. And then we start attacking each other. So now it's no longer about the issue at hand, but now it's personal attacks. Now I'm going on your page and I'm talking about how you look, and I'm talking about that picture you got where you were sloshed because you were at your 21st birthday party, right? So now we're coming for each other, and it's becoming personal, because it was already personal to the people whose family member this was. And so now the people that support them and are advocating for them feel personally attacked. And what do we do when we feel personally attacked? We attack back. But I think that there's also people that just withdraw. Like, I can imagine for this family, the shame and the embarrassment. And so I don't want people constantly bringing that up and how many people tag them in this post. So now I'm withdrawing because I don't want to have to deal with things. Now I've got my mind won't stop racing, and I'm going all over the place. All of the things that I've already been trying to do for this family member to get them the services they need, and support. And again, we have no idea the story behind this woman. We made assumptions about her. And so, but there are actual people who are involved and connected, who are her caregivers, who are trying to do their best. And if you know anything about mental illness, it can be a very tough road to find things that work consistently over time, and two, to get people to consistently take them because they sometimes have significant side effects. And then again, the stigma and the access and all of those things that can interfere. And so now I'm also wondering about these providers. Like, are y'all sharing information? Like, because again, I'm seeing names on here, and I'm concerned about whether or not there's ethical practices going on in this town, that providers that may not have been her provider, but maybe they work at other places. Like, is this what you all do? You mock patients? And so there's concern about that. But also for the person being mocked, like, self-esteem, um, their own anxiety and depression, just, it makes you not want to be productive because you just feel so beat down and less than. We also know that anytime we're struggling with things that are hurtful, then that increases the likelihood that we're going to engage in numbing behaviors, whether that's substance abuse, or shopping, or smoking, or engaging in relationships that are unhealthy. But also, like, people become real hostile when they feel like they're constantly being attacked, or that they have been attacked and there's people out there laughing at them, and it makes you just uncomfortable being in spaces. And so, that paranoia, that fear, that hypervigilance increases. But I will also tell you that people that mock, it affects you too. It's not healthy for you either. Because I will tell you that most people are not going to want to be in relationships with folks that are going to engage in that way, because what would you say about me? And also people that are mocking have to constantly be defensive because you are going to be under attack because people are going to be questioning you and your loyalty. And now you got to put on masks, you got to stand 10 toes down in it, so you got to put on this persona to kind of back this up because you're not in a position where you can just acknowledge that you made a mistake. So how do we move forward? Empathy, friends. Walk a mile in someone else's shoes, and even if you can't walk a mile in their shoes, think about how tired you feel in your everyday life dealing with the things that you deal with. This may not be your issue, but I guarantee you have one. And think about how you would want people to treat you in your struggle. Emotional intelligence, I will tell you, we are very immature. The mockery, there's just not space for that when it comes to a person's mental wellness, when it comes to protecting the integrity of people. Do some research, understand mental illness, understand addiction. Don't make assumptions because you see a post. You don't know these folks, you have no idea. Be in the space of not making comments on things you don't have information about, right? Be in the space of holding people accountable to being the best version of themselves. When you see something, say something, speak up. Instead of being fearful about retribution, speak up because it's the right thing to do. Therapy, always is your plug for therapy. If you're a person that engages in a lot of mockery, then I would definitely tell you to go and work on yourself because there is something going on within you that is causing you to lash out at other people, and you're saying it's a joke, but we really recognize that there are some insecurities, and some challenges within you that are causing you to engage in that very unsophisticated way of coping. Increase your awareness. Be mindful of how you come across other people, how your behaviors impact other people. Yes, you are responsible for how your behaviors impact others. And stop engaging in groupthink behaviors. Just because other people are doing it doesn't mean that you need to do it. Really question yourself and think about, is this consistent with my values or who I want to be? Because some of y'all are walking not in the spaces that you want to be in, but the spaces that you feel like are comfortable for you to be in. But I challenge you to be a little uncomfortable, and allow yourself to be, again, just a good human being. It does not take much to be a good human being other than you being invested in doing it. So, I want to end this by saying mental illness is not a tool for us to degrade, dismiss, or dehumanize another person. Um, and when I tell you that kindness costs nothing, it absolutely costs you nothing to simply be kind, or at the very least, don't add to a situation and make it worse. Okay? Be well.